these degenerate kind of gamblers, they're always going to be there. So the only thing that can kill poker, in my opinion, it's just way too slow for me. Live poker is just I try.
Yeah.
After a few hours, I'm just like, I want to pull my hair out, because for me personally, I'm optimistic about the future of poker, and the reason is it's so hard right now for a new poker reg to come into the game.
Three, two, one. Finally live. Man, we made it. All right.
We did it.
I have something fun prepared, actually. I'm going to be as selfish as I can with the next 60 minutes and ask you a couple of questions. But first off, before anything, if anyone doesn't know who this man is, of course, in Team 651 needs no introduction. JackStack 99, high stakes heads-up player. Before we start, though, where do you play nowadays, and what is the landscape? So just so I know, because
right. Yeah. So just a little backstory. I used to play heads-up hypers for a living, from 200s to 1Ks, and then like Ontario, where I live, Toronto, Ontario, we got out of the global pool, so we had to play just within Ontario. And since then, I've just been playing cash games, because there's no sit and goes that run. You can't play spin and goes, you can't play heads up games, like nothing really runs. So you kind of have to play cash games or MTTs. And I'm like, I want to play cash games. So I've been playing just a lot of cash games in all different. I'm playing everywhere. I play on like 7 different sites. So yeah.
I had no idea, man. That's sick.
Yeah.
Do you play live nowadays too? Because you didn't used to back in the day.
I don't know. I mean, I will play like once or twice a year or something like that. But other than that, no, I'm not playing live.
That is so interesting.
Too slow
okay.
It's just way too slow for me. Live poker is just I try.
Yeah.
After a few hours, I'm just like, I want to pull my hair out, because like I'm so used to playing online and having a hand like, every 15 seconds, and you play live, and then, I always use this example. You get like pocket queens after like 2 hours of getting no hands, and then somebody raises and you 3-bet, you get 2 calls, the flop comes like ace, king, 4, and then you just have to fold, and then you're just going crazy, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of live poker, but I will play from time to time.
Nice. Well, yeah. Anybody in Team 651 obviously knows you. The high stakes guys still know you. Whenever I talk to someone when I'm Bali or anywhere, I'm like, yeah, I'm in Team 651, and they're like, oh yeah, JackStack, right? And I'm like, yeah, JackStack. It's like the name they really remember from. So I also remember whenever I talk to someone, they're like, oh, is he still using the time bank, like till the last split second? And probably you still do that in cash games.
Yeah, I drain the time, like every site I play on, I drain the time bank all the way down, like just because I'm just like, you know what it is? Like some people think that like it's because I'm doing it on purpose and try to tell people. It's not the case at all. It's just like I have a bit of my brain's a little bit slow, I'll be honest. Like even when I'm watching like TV shows and stuff, like I just can't keep up with like what's going on. If there's too many characters or there's too many things going on, I'll ask my girlfriend, like, wait, what's happening here? Like, who's this character? I don't remember them. So like I process things kind of maybe slower than the average person. So I kind of need that time to kind of wrap my head around what's going on, on the turn or the river or whatever. Like,
so is Game of Thrones for you then? Have you tried it?
I've only watched like 1 or 2 episodes a long time ago, but I don't really watch TV shows that much. I think for that reason, I just can't. I don't know. I can't like, unless it's like extremely simple, I can't really keep up with it. I don't know.
That is very interesting, because especially like a series like Game of Thrones would be extremely challenging then, because it is changing all the time.
Yeah. Like I would probably like, I would have no idea what's going on if I was watching that, for sure.
Right. Okay. But so basically you're the head coach still? No, right? Yes. In Team 651, you're still the head coach, because I thought it would be shifting a little bit more to Tom and to Wobbs. And
I mean, you could technically say any of those guys are the head coaches, to be honest. I mean, we all do coaching. I mean, Tommy does the most coaching by far, and then Scott and I. Yeah. So Tommy, I guess, probably be the head coach, because he coaches a lot of hours. Yeah. So
right. Yeah. He said one time He had a sick month where he coached 80 hours or something like that, something crazy.
Yeah.
Insane. I wanted to start this podcast on an interesting situation that happened, and I want to know your opinion. I think I know that you're really gonna like it, or you're gonna say it's crazy. So here's the situation. So there was this guy, high stakes guy. Everybody knows him, ultra high stakes, and he has one of the strictest daily routines I've ever seen. Wakes up exactly the same time every day, gets a coffee, sits at the computer at the same time. He sits the same way every single day. He goes to the gym at the same time every single day, studies every single day at the same time. So everything is perfectly planned. And then at like 3, 4 o'clock, he relaxes a little bit, right? So there was this crazy situation during the pandemic where you probably had the same situation where he was sitting at the computer, he was playing 1K spin and goes, but one thing was different. There were 2Fish games, a lot of them, a crazy amount of 2Fish games. And everybody around him, because he was living with some guys, they were like, wow, man, everybody stopped playing because everybody wanted to watch the 1Ks, you know? And so he played, and then his alarm clock went off, and he stood up, and everybody looked at him and was, whoa, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I'm going to the gym. You know, and everybody around him were thinking that he's going to be playing 10 hours straight, right? Because there's only fish in the game.
Yes.
But he didn't. He stood up, and for him, it was actually surreal that everybody agreed that he should play more. He said, I'm going to the gym, I'm going to study my hour, then I'm going to have lunch, and then I'm going to come back for another session. I'm just going to continue my routine. When you hear that, like, what do you think about this? Is this weird?
You know, I actually have very strong discipline myself as well. So I'm very similar to this guy you're describing, but there's one thing I very much lack discipline in. If there are some good games that I'm in, I almost can't, I cannot leave. I just literally can't. Like, I don't know. I don't have that muscle. But I do have like a very similar structure as to what you're talking about this guy. But if I'm in like just really good games, like I'm not gonna leave. I just can't unless it's like 3 a.m. If it gets like somewhere where it's like 2, 3 a.m, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna leave now. Unless it's like, but if the game is like incredible, I still probably want to leave if I'm honest, you know. So yeah, that's different, you know. That's different.
Do you think that's
that way? That's a very rare. That's a very rare thing. I think it can be good. I think it's probably better, honestly, not better for like obviously short-term EV and money, but it's better for like just long-term life EV and just your health and mental well-being and feeling good and stuff like that. I think that's probably a really good approach, unless like he's so addicted to that schedule that he literally can't take a break or take a vacation and relax and calm down. You know what I mean? Like some people are like that as well.
Can you explain that a little bit better? Because I've never heard that.
Like what I just said, just the last
part?
Yeah.
Like what do you mean with it's
what
negative?
I'm saying is
he gets
like
addicted to it.
What I'm saying is like if it becomes like an obsession, like for example, you're on vacation with your friends and like you guys are wanting to have a good time and this person's like, yeah, like I need to go to the gym at this hour. Like, oh, bro, why don't you just go in like a few hours? Like we're all gonna go have dinner, and then we're all gonna hang out, and we're going to like we're all gonna play tennis. I don't know, and then let's go to the gym later. And the guy's like, no, I have to go now. I feel like that can come in the way of like some of your social life and maybe get in the way of other things, and so that's something to watch out for. Yeah, it's like let's say you're hanging out with somebody and they're just like, and you guys are having such a good time, and like you're about to go to like a social event, let's say a concert or like a baseball game or a basketball game. And he's like, oh, no, I can't because I have to go home and study for 1 hour. He's like, well, can you just like postpone it to later or tomorrow or something? We're having a good time. We're here with our friend. You know what I mean? Like, so if it becomes like an obsession like that, I think it could kind of be a bad thing. Like, I had an example. I had a friend, not this way like you're describing, but
okay.
His eating habits were extremely healthy, yeah? So sometimes when he would go for like a dinner or something, and there wasn't like anything up to his health standards at the restaurant, he just wouldn't eat, and he would be like kind of like an outcast in that situation. He's like, oh, I'm not gonna have anything. But then later on in life, I talked to him, and he was like, no, he's like, now he's like, I don't really let those kind of things, like if it's once in a while I'm gonna have like a cheap meal and like we're with friends and stuff, he's like, I'm just gonna do it, it's just, I don't want to like kill the vibe of the group or whatever. And he's just like, yeah, once in a while I'll just do it. So I think there's a line with that. Like you don't want to be like, you want to be structured, but at the same time you got to be able to live an unstructured life with being okay with it, because some people are so OCD that like if they break that structure, well, they just can't. They literally physically can't break that structure. You know what I mean? Like they don't want to break that routine for anything, and that can get in the way of like other areas of their lives.
Do you think that line can shift over time? Like the younger you are, the more super disciplined actually helps you, and the older you get, and maybe the more accomplished you get, the more the more it shifts towards the social
Definitely.
area, right?
Definitely. I mean, it depends on your life goals, right? Like if
Yeah.
all you're trying to do is make money, that's the perfect way to do it.
Yeah.
But if you want to live like somewhat of a balanced life, and you want to have like a girlfriend and be spontaneous and have friends and stuff like that, it gets in the way a little bit. So you got to be able to kind of bend it a little bit. But then like some people will take that as, okay, I'm never gonna have any structure at all, which that's a personal choice as well, and that's fine. I respect that. Like people that don't have any structure, like I'm pretty damn structured. I used to be completely
Yeah.
unstructured though. Funny enough, like when the first
When
7 years
since
I was
we
playing
met?
poker,
No.
I was just playing poker and sleeping and eating. That's it. No other structure. Poker, sleep, eat. I guess it's a structure in a way, but like
Yeah.
I wouldn't wake up at the same time every day or even close to the same time. And I would just play until I was tired, and I would sleep, and that was that. Now like I'm a lot more structured now that I have a girlfriend. I have to try to like mesh with her schedule in a way as well too. So I'm definitely a little bit more structured now.
Do you think you needed that though to get to where you are, or you think if you had more structure, you would get to where you are anyway?
In terms of like just financially, like poker wise, or like in terms of
In any measure that you think is important for you, right?
I'll tell you what, I wasn't happy when I was unstructured at all.
Okay.
Like we did a podcast together a very long time ago. I remember.
Yeah.
And like it's not that I wasn't happy. Let me take that back. I feel like that's not properly like the situation. I was happy during like in spurts. Like there was times where I was happy, but then like there was times where I was just like, what am I doing? Like I'm going to bed at like 8 a.m. and waking up at like 6 p.m. sometimes. You know what I mean? Like it was really off. And I kept doing that, and I kept the 24-hour sleep schedule, like when people go on that, I was on that for like 6 or 7 years, where I would wake up 1 hour later every single day, to the point where I've waken up and I've went to sleep every single hour throughout the day, like
Jesus.
many times. There would be schedules where I would go to sleep at like noon and wake up at like 10 p.m. And then just start my day. Like it was just weird like that, like it was really off. So my circadian rhythms were all thrown off, and like I just felt like I was just like kind of wasting away a little bit, to be honest. Like I don't know, it was weird. But then like I would have sometimes where, like usually when I woke up in the mornings, like I was feeling happier. Like when I somehow shifted to like a schedule that was somewhat good for like a week, you know what I mean? Then I would feel kind of good. I'm like, oh, I'm waking up at 7 a.m. Look at me, But now I'm just fairly consistent. Not perfect. I'm not perfect at all. Like, but I sleep probably between 11:30 and 2, and I'll wake up between 10 and 11:30. That's basically
right.
Like, so like I'm in a window. I don't have an exact time, but there's a window for me, and I stick to that window.
That's so interesting, because a lot of my friends outside of poker, they have this issue where they do something that they really like, that they feel healthier, they go to the gym, they feel amazing. They have that all of that energy, and they're like, okay, now I'm going to do it. Now I'm going to continue to do this. And then they stop and they go back to their normal self. Mm-hmm. And then they just don't do it again. And then you're like, well, you felt so amazing, right? Remember the last week? You felt so good. Why do you not do it, right?
Glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up. We talk about this a lot in the private sessions that Scott and I do with some players, and we talk about this topic a lot. And that's what you're describing there is like a surge of motivation. Yeah. So like sometimes, like let's say people hear like an inspirational podcast,
Right.
or they see something like one of their favorite YouTubers. They're like, I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. Yeah. And then at that moment, you're so fired up. You're like, you know what? I'm going to go to the gym for 2 hours per day. I'm going to read books for 2 hours per day. I'm going to study for you know, you just set these crazy ambitious goals that are not sustainable at all. Because what's going to happen is as soon as your motivation goes away, you're not going to do that shit anymore. You're going to start dreading it. Yeah. So what I like to tell people is don't create goals when you're motivated.
Yeah.
Don't create goals when you're motivated, because motivation is a feeling. Yeah. It comes and goes whenever it wants to. You cannot control whether you're motivated or not. It'll come, it'll go. Very simple. And so what you want to do is create a goal that you can achieve even when you're not motivated. So what I say is start small. If you're not going to the gym at all, you should not be going to the gym for 2 hours. Go to the gym for 15 minutes. See how you feel. Study for 10 to 15 minutes. You know, do some walk outside for like 10 minutes. I would say start as small as possible. Even when you're feeling motivated, you're like, oh, I can do more. I can do more.
Exactly.
Just cut it out. Start small. Wait like 2 or 3 months. Wait until that time comes where you don't feel motivated, and see if you can still do those habits when you're not feeling motivated. Because that's the most important thing. The key is, can I stay consistent when I'm not motivated at all? And if you can do that and you feel fine with it, then you can move up a little bit. You can say, okay, let me go do 15 minutes. Or you can find your ground and you're like, you know what? This is the right time for me. If I feel like if I did any more than this, I would kind of dread it.
Right.
So there's a line there. You don't want to get to a point where you're dreading a certain something. Like for me, my routine is very simple, right? Like my health routine, I do like 10 minutes of stretching. I do 10 minutes of studying before my sessions, and then I'll do some after as well. And I'll do 10 minutes of meditation. So it's a 30-minute thing. Very simple for me. And I can do it whether I feel like it or not, because it's so simple. When I'm motivated, sometimes maybe I feel like going 2 hours, but I won't do it. I literally do not do it. Even if I feel like doing it, I won't do it because I know it's not sustainable. And I want to do something that I can do every single day. And that's the most important thing for people to realize, you know, if you're, you know, because you're not going to be motivated all the time, man. I promise you. Like, tell me how many times in your life you've been motivated. Yeah. Like, there's probably so many, but then tell me how many times in your life you haven't been motivated. There's probably so many. So if you're creating these goals that are just so big, what do you think happens? Like, if your goals are like 1 hour study every single day, 1 hour gym, 1 hour of stretching,
work. No chance.
You go from 1 hour to 0. That's the problem. You don't go from, why not go from 1 hour to 10 minutes? Why not do that? Because that adds up, like over time, over months, over years, that adds up, right? And then like when I look back on like I'm like so flexible now. I used to be not flexible at all, but I've been stretching every single day, 10 minutes for like, I don't know how many years, 5 or 6 years now.
And everybody can do 10 minutes.
Yeah, anybody, or do 5. You can even do 5. The point is, do it in a way where you're not going to be dreading it. Like I said, when your motivation goes away, 2 hours going to the gym, you can be like, I am not doing that. It's too big of a mountain to climb.
Right? You need an insane reason to do this.
Yeah,
you need an insane reason.
Make it easy.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing. Like I have one thing that comes to mind. I don't know why. Jennifer Harman, you probably know her, right? Like from High Stakes Poker, a poker player, and she said something interesting. I didn't understand what it meant back then because I wasn't ready. Like my mind was not ready to understand it. But she said she was in the staking game. She was staking high stakes players, and she made way more money staking good players than playing herself. They were just simply better than her. Sure. And she said, I'm going to watch people when they are losing. And that's how I decide who I'm going to stake. If I see someone at his lowest point and he is functioning, like his mind is functioning correctly, he understands the situation, he behaves correctly, he doesn't start yelling at people, he doesn't completely blast off, that is the person I'm going to stake. Because that is the person that when everything goes down, that person I can trust because he will not stop. Basically, he will just go out of the casino, have a good day outside, come back next day, feel fresh, instead of blasting off 3 buy-ins, completely tilted. So if we take this to poker, this is a really cool thing. And like I said, back in the day, that's probably like, oh man, I don't know, 18 years ago, I didn't understand what she meant, but I started to. And lately, I've been coming back to poker, as I told you. I was really not feeling it, man. I was like out of the game. This is actually something that I wanted to ask you too. But I started to take it slow. I played $5 games, 1 table. Then I added 1 table. I didn't feel good. Okay, I went back to 1 table. Then I played $10 games. Then I went back when I felt good at $10 games, and I added the 2nd table at the $5 games. Then I went to the $10 games. And when my Chippy V was consistently going up, I knew, okay, cool, I feel good. After the session, I didn't feel dreaded, like you said. I felt great. So I was like, cool, I can change something. I can add something very, very small. And this whole process is like 3 months. And now I'm in the 10s, my Chippy V is amazing, and I feel super happy playing 3 sessions a day. And I started with 1 30-minute-hour session. 1 30-minute-hour session.
Great way to start. Yeah.
Yeah, because you completely destroy yourself if you go right away into like 5-hour sessions, 3 tables. There's no chance, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you about this. Like, how do you see the poker landscape? Because I've been very vocal about this. I thought poker would be dead now. Like 2023, 2024, with the bots and with all this stuff that was going on. And you were actually one of the guys that survived the bot mania on PokerStars in the high stakes. You showed me some hands, and we talked about, I don't know if you remember, in Prague. And it was so interesting because I was like, how could you beat them? Right? First off, that was my first thought. How was that even possible? And 2 years ago, in my mind was like, okay, it's over. Like, I don't know what everybody's doing in poker, but I'm going to get out. And now I came back and I saw Hans play, Bet John. Yeah. I was living in Bali again. I saw him play and I was like, Hans, how is it possible that these guys still make these mistakes? It's the same mistakes people made 3-4 years ago. How is that possible? There's so many solvers out there. So what is your opinion on the landscape in general? Like, not just right now, but the poker landscape in general. Like, why is it so fluctuating, actually?
Yeah, I have a lot of opinions on that. I mean, first things first, I think the bad thing about it is that like all these sites keep banning countries. Yeah. This becomes a big problem, yeah? But I never think poker is going to get to a point where it's dead, and I'll tell you why. Before I tell you why, though, like when you think about just how many people are in this world, yeah? Yeah. And people still, you said people still make the same mistakes.
The same mistake, the exact same stuff.
But listen, people still gamble at casinos in guaranteed losing games, right?
Yeah.
They're still making that mistake. How many years are people going to make that mistake, right? Playing roulette, playing blackjack, playing the random table games there where you're guaranteed to lose. So in my opinion, like poker is so much more fun for them to lose money that like playing poker than it is to just go to like playing blackjack, because poker, like you have a chance to win. I think, people win, they have a chance to win. Versus the casino, you're basically guaranteed to lose. At poker, you're like, okay, I can win some sessions. Even the worst players, right? They win a lot of sessions. So I think what happens is these degenerate kind of gamblers, they're always going to be there. So the only thing that can kill poker, in my opinion, is going to be the bots. But then the bot situation has been looking a lot better.
Yeah, for sure.
You ask me, like I play, the highest stakes right now, and I've been playing the highest stakes for a long time. I don't notice any bots. I haven't noticed a bot in years. I really haven't. There was a time, maybe it was around that time that we met in Prague. I don't remember. It was probably around exactly that time, like 6 years ago, I want to say,
6-7 years,
bots were completely taken over.
Yeah.
But now it seems like the poker sites have it figured out. I don't know what they did, but they figured it out. Like there's no bots. I don't see them. If there are bots, maybe there are some on like these random shady sites. But I don't play on these random shady sites, so I don't know. But like any major site, I don't think there's bots. So if
they're doing a good job.
What's that?
They're doing a really good job, like
They're doing
PokerStars,
an
Party
excellent job.
Poker.
Like whatever they're doing with their security, it's working. I don't know how they're doing it or what their approach is.
Yeah.
But it's exactly what it needs to be. Like they're doing what they need to do. And for me personally, I'm optimistic about the future of poker. And the reason is it's so hard right now for a new poker reg to come into the game because the games are kind of tough. Okay. They're a lot tougher than they were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, right? Low stakes, stakes. Like they're just tougher because like the regular to fish recreational ratio is just, the ratio is a lot worse now. There's more regs, there's, less recreationals. But I still think that it's hard for a new regular to come into the games today because of that ratio, right? Let's say like if you're somebody that knows nothing about poker, yeah? I just think it's difficult because I'll tell you what, like 10 years ago, if a new poker player came to play poker, yeah, they can win immediately almost because the games are very like a lot of fish.
Yeah,
nobody knows what they're doing. There was no solvers, yeah. So you can come and win on intuition. And then once you get into the scene and you start winning on intuition, you're like, oh, let me find out how I can get even better and become a better player. Now you can't come in and win on intuition. You got to have some sort of poker knowledge. You have to be using solvers at least a little bit, at least at the mid stakes. Maybe at the low stakes you can get away with not doing it, but you have to be somewhat good. So most people that come in, I think, are going to lose money, and then they're just not going to become a poker reg. So for that reason, I think we're going to see less and less regs, like newer regs, showing up in the game, and we're still going to have a similar amount of fish if they stop banning all these countries from all these sites. Like it's some of that stuff, like party poker, you can't play on party poker unless you live in like the UK or Brazil. I think it is. Everywhere else you just can't play. So they got to stop doing that. They have to. There has to be something like where like everyone is allowed to play. And
let me ask you something about that before we move on. Does that mean, though, that the regs that are in the game right now, that they, in essence, move up consistently? Does that mean that there will be less and less regs in the lower stakes? Or do you think that there's something hindering people to actually move up? Because you said, like, there's not more coming in, or it's tougher. Yeah. So what happens to the regs that are in the game? Let's just say you're a 20s reg right now, right? And you get coaching consistently. You're part of Team 651, for example. So what happens with you?
What's gonna happen is like more and more so whoever keeps studying and getting better in the solvers is gonna move up, and then those people that are kind of slacking are gonna come down or stay gotcha. Exactly where they're at. So it's just gonna be like if you're not getting ahead, you're getting behind. That's right. The simplest way I can put it. Like because if you're staying stagnant, there's other people that are studying every single day and getting ahead, right? So in that case, then you'll get to a point where you have to move down. And then the people that don't take poker seriously at all are just going to drop out.
Yeah.
And we've seen some of that happen actually over the last 4 or 5 years, where some people, they're kind of playing part-time and then they have a full-time job, but they're not taking it too seriously. They kind of, at some point, they're like, you know what? I'm not making as much money in poker as I want to. And then they drop out. But the reason why they're not making as much money as they want to is because they're not 1000% fully committed, and they're not working with solvers every single day and actually really trusting in their ability to get better and move up in stakes.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Especially for me, what I see is that I'm having the same discussions over and over because I realized that the solver, like what the solver is telling us, and I had this discussion with Tom, is not very intuitive. Like a lot of I'll give you a very specific situation that completely changed my mind. But whenever I tell the situation to a new player, they're like, oh, that's very interesting. And the next day they make the same mistake again.